Hi everyone, it's Kyra Wong and I'm here today with Kate Brady, VP of Marketing at DLC, and we are off to do our next Leading Lady interview. So Kate, thanks for being with me today.
Thanks so much for having me. It's an honor.
Yay, yay. So tell us a little bit about Kate Brady.
So who is Kate Brady? I grew up in a very small town, Ontario, in a 13,000 person small town rural. And I was always aspiring to be more. So throughout my childhood, I was always encouraged to think outside the box and to be exactly who I was. My mom taught me very early on to embrace being an independent woman and not depend on a man for anything. And I think that was really ingrained in me in my childhood. And I always strived to be the girl in the high heel shoes, calling the shots and running around and not being afraid to embrace my fashion sense. Coming from a small town, I actually had big dreams of wearing beautiful, fashionable clothes and just being able to express myself in that creative manner. And small town people, traditionally, like jeans and sweaters, there's nothing wrong with that, but I always wanted the fancy stuff. And my friends used to call me fancy. And it was kind of challenging as I grew up because I felt like I didn't fit into that mold of the small town. And but I spread my wings and I traveled and I developed eventually into a very confident person and that can wear pink and all sorts of other beautiful colors and embrace my fashion sense.
So how do you define success?
Success is a lot of things to me. I've had all sorts of goals throughout life, and I think one of my biggest goals when I was growing up was to be a CEO, to be a leader, to change mentalities and to push boundaries. And so success for me is about finding the right career path and something that really felt like it filled my bucket, and to surround myself with people that inspire me to be better and to look at things differently and to experience places and companies and products differently. And so for me, success was finding where I belong. And that goes back to very early on knowing that I wanted to be in marketing and knowing I wanted to be in that creative space and going to school and pushing forward and knowing that I wanted to graduate and just start my career. And I started my career at 21 working in a creative agency and pulling crazy hours and being surrounded by incredible people that challenged me to think differently about how we put on events and how we market products. And I realized I was in the right role, but I knew that I wanted to experience different industries. And I think the nice thing about marketing is that you get to touch upon different industries. And that's where I was really introduced to financial and the mortgage space. And in 2013, I was, to be honest, burnt out. I was mid-20s, which is crazy to say that you're burnt out when you're mid-20s, but I'm working 16 hours a day and I've got these demands of high clients, and I knew that I needed a break. Mentally, physically, I needed a change. And my good friend and my mentor, Emily Boyce, called me up one day out of the blue and said, "Hey, I've got the perfect job for you and I want to reunite. Are you willing to take a chance?" And I took a chance on a 6-month contract. So I left a fairly senior position at a marketing agency and took a couple steps back, took a chance on a 6-month contract thinking, what am I going to do? I've got a mortgage, I've got a future husband, I've got a life that I have to pay for. But I knew something needed to change. And that's really where I got my start in the mortgage space and got introduced to mortgage brokers and this entire awesome, amazing, crazy industry of wonderful people. But I also got to work more of a 9-to-5, which was nice. It was that mental reset. It was an ability for me to not take a phone call in the middle of a friend's birthday party and not have to take off on weekends and work. But I got bored pretty quickly. And in 2015, I had an opportunity with that company to go to DLC's National Sales Conference. And I remember vividly sitting in that conference room, and it was just after the opening ceremonies in Whistler, and Gary Morris took the stage. And I'd heard a lot about Gary Morris in the past, but I'd never had the opportunity to meet him or see him in person. And here's this larger-than-life character that just takes the stage and captures everybody in the room. And he talked about leadership and his energy and all of what he was kind of preaching to DLC Network. And I turned to Emily. I remember that moment. We were like halfway in the middle of the conference room. And I turned to her and I said, I want to work for that company one day. Like, I think I just drank the blue Kool-Aid. And that was really the start of my love in the mortgage space. That conference, meeting all these incredible brokers, understanding the space a lot more. And then, fast forward 2017, I think 2016, actually, end of 2016, we're at MPC National Sales Conference in Vancouver, and it was the first time, actually, I kind of came solo for the company that I was working for previously, and got to kind of run the trade show booth and all of our elements for the conference. And we were celebrating with some team members afterwards, and one of my friends, who's a good friend today, kind of tapped me on the shoulder and he said, "You're not happy." Like, what are you talking about? Of course I'm happy. I'm newly married. I've got a house. Like, I'm in Vancouver. I'm about to go on vacation and see my parents who moved to the island about 10 years ago. Like, I'm happy. He's like, "You're not happy. You're not fulfilled." And it was probably 2 a.m., a Roxy, and yes, there'd been a couple glasses of wine, but I just started bawling out of nowhere. And it was kind of that aha moment for me of, oh my God, what am I doing? I'm not happy, I'm not fulfilled, but why? And it forced me to kind of look inwards and really evaluate my life and my path. And outward looking, I had a wonderful life. I had everything that you're supposed to have at 29, and I was feeling like an amazing support system. I had a husband, I had all these friends, I just got a beautiful wedding, I have a great job, I work with incredible people, but something was missing. And then 2017, kind of early January, I will never forget it. So I kind of parked okay, I need to look inward, and you celebrate the holidays and all this kind of stuff, and then I get back to real life. And a couple weeks into the new year, I remember driving down Trafalgar Road in Oakville, Ontario on my way to work, probably 8:30 in the morning, and it was snowy. And Maroon 5, I think it was Cold. I think the song was Cold. It was playing on the radio. It was a breakup song. And it was kind of where I was going in my personal life as well, experiencing my personal life. So it really resonated with me. And it was one of those aha moments of, I need to do something else. I'm driving down the hill. I'm paid, but I'm paying my bills. I'm driving down the hill. I'm doing the same thing every single day, and I'm not being challenged. I'm not being challenged professionally. I'm not being challenged personally. And I need to do something radical to fulfill that bucket. And I need to start figuring out what my dreams are, and I need to go after them aggressively. And then DLC, the role of the event manager came up out of nowhere. It was almost like it was a calling. And that year, as we turned over the clock in January, actually, I spent New Year's with my parents in BC. And I remember saying to them at the strike of midnight, I'm going to move to BC this year. I'm going to make it happen. It's something that was a passion of mine to move for 10 years because they had moved out and relocated forever ago. And I wanted to be closer to my family, and I set that intention for myself. And then you fast forward to March when the DLC job came up and the event manager, and I thought, I'm going after this. This is like meant for me. And I got it, and I started in Mexico, and I met you, and I met all these incredible brokers, and my career began at DLC, and I have never looked back. And my role at DLC and DLC Group has only grown, and I think every year I can say it's been more successful, and it continues to surprise me, and it continues to push me and force me to creatively think outside the box. And I love what I do. I love everything that I touch, and I'm exactly where I'm meant to be.
So have you ever struggled with a limiting belief?
Kind of a few. I know I'm maybe just to pick one, but one of them is really as I've grown up in this industry, and I think being 34 and getting that VP role and being pushed to think outside the box and take on a ton of responsibility. As you rise through the ranks and you become more successful, for me it was always am I good enough to be here? It's like that gut check of, I know that I'm smart, I know that I'm capable, I know that I work hard, I know my stuff, but every now and then there's this little niggling feeling in the back of, am I good enough to be here at this age? Am I good enough to sit at this table? Am I good enough to be in this industry? Am I good enough to be leading this division? And so that's been something I constantly struggle with, and not that I need the affirmation or the pat on the back, but it's more of an internal gut check of, yes, I deserve to be here. But it's been a struggle, and it's been a balance, and that also goes into the other limiting belief for me is success for me, especially career-wise, has always been at the expense of something else. So, I got to BC in 2017, and I'm working for this company, and I'm traveling across the world, and I'm meeting all these incredible people, and I'm doing what I love, and I'm dipping my toes in marketing. But at the same time as my career was taking off, my personal life was blowing up and completely in shambles. And I poured every ounce of myself into my career and to working weekends and working late at night. And as my marriage is imploding, my friends are halfway across the country. My parents are on the island, but I'm not seeing them as much as I probably should, given that I'm in BC. And so for me, it's been about finding that balance and understanding that you can have a successful career and you can also have a very successful personal life, and you are good enough and you can be enough, but you have to find the balance. And for me, it's been trying to find that priority. And so this year has been a huge growth period for me of realizing that I can have both and that I am good enough, but it's taken a really long time to get there because I've always put the foot to the pedal and full throttle down the highway on career as my personal life was just not what it needed to be. And then you take a step back and think about my career path, and in 2013 taking a job that was more 9 to 5 so I could focus on my personal life. And my personal life at that time was amazing, and I got to see all my friends and I was building this beautiful relationship, but my career wasn't where it needed to be. So that's been a constant thing for me to try and figure out balance and if I'm good enough to be exactly where I am today.
So what do you think you've sacrificed to get where you are today?
Oh, it's a loaded question. I mean, first and foremost, my marriage, 100%. In 2016, when I was really questioning things and my friend tapped me on the shoulder and said, "You're not happy," a lot of that was personal unrest and feeling like I was not probably where I needed to be. And my marriage was on the rocks in 2016 and absolutely imploded in 2017 and came to a catastrophic firework end in 2019. But, I sacrificed that. I sacrificed that relationship because, and probably unfairly, because I knew that it wasn't what I needed. And in hindsight, I really wish that I had the strength to let him go sooner. Well, I have a lot of respect for him, love him as a person. He wasn't my person. And, I think I held on to that relationship for a lot longer. We'd been together 10 years and he was my person, he was my best friend, but he wasn't the husband I needed. He wasn't the partner I needed. We want different things out of life. We still do. And one of those big things that he wanted was children. And I always struggled my whole life understanding if I wanted my own children. My mom will say, "You were knee-high to a duck," and never said, "I don't need my own kids. I just want to run a company one day," which is probably still very true today. But for me, not having that urge to have children, my friends knew, "Oh my God, I'm going to have 10 babies. I'm going to get married to my high school sweetheart. I'm going to have all these kids." And I was always like, when the time's right, maybe after this event, maybe after this promotion. And I realized, especially through my divorce, that I don't need my own children to be satisfied and fulfilled, and really is about who is around the table at 80 or who's around the table now that fulfills something else, or I can impact someone else. It doesn't need to be my own flesh and blood. I'm in a very fortunate and loving situation now where I have 2 incredible kids that I get to interact with on a regular basis and hopefully impact and shape their lives in some way, and an incredibly supportive partner. But it took a long time and a lot of sacrifice to understand, am I okay with that? And ultimately, I think as someone who is climbing the corporate ladder when you were younger, and have already had success in those prime childbearing years, it was something that was always forefront. If I don't do it now, then I'm never going to be able to do it. But if I do it now, then I'm completely pausing my career. Whereas so many of my friends had children younger, and then they started that career trajectory later after their kids were, in school. And so I kind of knew through the divorce and through what was happening with my career that I was okay, and I made peace with it. I mean, it didn't go without some tears, and I kind of grieved the loss of something I didn't even know that I would grieve and be bothered about. But I can say that I made the best decision for me, and I don't regret it, and I'm happy where I am today, although be it a difficult situation to realize.
Have you ever bumped up against the glass in the corporate world?
Yes. I think we can probably all say in some aspects that we have. Mine's a little different. I think the marketing space, the agency space is a bit cutthroat, as all industries can be, but it is a primarily female-dominated industry, I would say, in that marketing agency life. And I had incredible mentors as I grew up in the marketing space, but I also had female leaders that I think encourage you to a certain point. If you show too much talent or too much ambition, you become a threat, perhaps. Maybe not, but that's how I saw it. And so there were certain opportunities that I think I was passed over for that I was more than qualified for, just because I think I was probably better at the role than the person hiring for it. And I was kind of forced in those scenarios to think and reevaluate where I wanted to be. But I've had incredible mentorship throughout the years that have really encouraged me to reach for that glass and to put on the highest high heels possible and see if I can shatter it. And coming over to DLC is certainly one of those places that have afforded me that opportunity. And I know we talk a lot about being in a male-dominated industry, and finance is a male-dominated industry. Actually, you look around, most industries are male-dominated. And I think the work that all of ladies like you and Megan McDonald and the Elaine Taylors of the world and the Laura Martins and all of these women that are pushing forward for equality and for the female voice to be heard has allowed my climb up the ladder to be a lot easier. Hallie, Suzanne, all these women that are advocating for change and advocating for you to see the person at the table for the skill set that they have and not for who they are, I think has been so incredibly impactful, and you might not realize it today, but I am a product of all of that hard work, that I have had the opportunity to truly showcase my skill set and my talent and be promoted and shatter those glass ceilings without much resistance. Yes, resistance in my early career days in a different industry of some sort. And that shaped me, and that made me a little bit more determined to go after and to fight. But I want to take a moment to thank all of the amazing ladies that are pushing our industry forward, because the next generation, I'm seeing that reward, and I really appreciate that. So I've had a couple, again, back more in my earlier kind of days when I'm discovering who I was. I interned for a radio station when I was 17 or 18, thought I might want to get into broadcasting, kind of a version of marketing and advertising, and interned for a disc jockey, quite a prominent disc jockey, and there was several inappropriate incidents that happened, and I think I was just so shocked and didn't really understand how to move forward, and kind of accepted it as, oh my God, is this life? Is this how you get up the corporate ladder? Is this what you have to expect as treatment as a female, or as anybody kind of looking to push forward and learn? And I didn't really do anything about that. I kind of, internship was 6 months. I closed the door on it and moved forward. And then flash forward to I'm 20 something, and I decided to book a one-way ticket to England and travel a little bit of Europe before I really figured out where I wanted to land in a full-time career. And I was waitressing my way across Europe, and I worked for this Italian restaurant with these true Italians made the best pasta. But the manager was both verbally and physically abusive. And he was that to everybody. And, especially in that culture, everyone's like, oh, it's fine. And it's not fine. And it also impacts how pretty you are, how many shifts you get, how much tolerance you take, how many tips you get. I mean, it's all connected, right? It's that imbalance of power. And so I certainly experienced that, but being a little wiser, dealt with that situation differently and took a stand. But those types of experiences have really shaped what I tolerate today, and the boundaries that I lay, and what I bring to the table in an organization, and what I will and will not accept, and where I really point the conversation. So the first time when I was 17 and interning, I didn't do anything about it, and I kind of felt a bit of ashamed. I felt, what had I done to provoke this? What did I do? You kind of wear that. But I learned, because you fast forward to Italy, 20 something, and I immediately dealt with it. It was a no nonsense, no tolerance. Like, I don't care. This is inappropriate and unacceptable, and this is my boundary. And so I think, yes, I saw repercussions. Yes, my shifts got cut. And eventually it's kind of one of those, I don't need to work for this company, or I don't want to work for these people, because they obviously don't have the best interest at heart. They've got some other agenda and I'm not willing to be part of it. And I moved on. But having said that, I was waitressing. I was not going to be a career waitress. So a lot easier, I think, in a sense, to stand up for what you believe in and your boundaries, in a sense that it's not really going to catastrophically affect your career trajectory. So it's one of those things where I would,
You get in life what you tolerate.
you get in life what you tolerate, and you need to set boundaries, and you need to be brave enough to stand up for yourself and to address it in the moment. Yeah. Exactly. Address it in the moment, because if you do not, it's going to perpetuate, and then you're going to continue to be in this space, and you're not going to move forward. And so, as difficult as it is, I give everybody the advice: deal with it in the moment, get what you tolerate.
Yeah.
Be brave enough. Be brave enough to stand up, and if it doesn't work out the way you expected it to work out, then you move on and you'll be better off for it.
What's a piece of advice you would give to your younger self?
Ooh, probably plenty. But I think the biggest one is trust your intuition and go with your gut. There's been so many moments in my life that I've kind of ignored that niggling feeling. This might not be the right situation, this might not be the right relationship, this might not be the right friendship, the right work scenario. And every single time my gut was right, and I've learned something from it. I think it's important to evaluate a situation when it goes wrong and take stock of what it taught you. But I wish I had learned to trust my intuition a lot more.
What is your spirit animal?
A hawk. So I struggled with this one, thinking about what do I relate to most. I took all the tests, but for me, as I look at all sorts of different spirit animals, the hawk just resonated with me the most. It's free. I'm a free bird. I like adventure. I like to be able to do what I need to do and experience life. But also, hawks are wise, and because they get to fly around and see everything, they have a different perspective. And I think I have a unique ability to see situations differently with a different perspective. So those types of traits really resonated with me.
Thank you, Dominion Lending Centers, for your generous sponsorship in making this video possible.